Okay, so you've joined Zoom the Basics, just in case you think you might need to be someplace else, but this is where you are right now. So introductions, we have Janet Samuelian with us, and she is the Director of Child Development, and she's helping today. She's going through the chat, and I do have places where I stop and pause, but if it's an important theme that a lot of people are asking the same question about, please interrupt me, and we'll stop and we'll talk about that, and we will move on. So today we're covering just getting started, classroom management, and then just a few bells and whistles that you may or may not use with your class, but we just want you to know that they're there and they are available. Okay. So where do you get started? This is a big question. So there are two ways to get to Zoom. Okay. One is through Clever, and the other is just going directly to cusd.zoom.us. We always want to funnel people through Clever because that gives us some good analytics of who's using what. But if Clever is ever down for any reason, don't panic that you can't get to your Zoom link to start your Zoom session. Just go to cusd.zoom.us and start your Zoom session for the day. Okay. So if you're going in through Clever, you're going to sign into Clever, click Active Directory, and you're going to click the big giant Zoom link, and it's going to take you to a place where you're just going to click Sign In, right? It's basically going to take you to the same place that this link would normally take you. You always choose sign in, always, always. You may get prompted to do our single sign on. You may not, but you may. And then if this screen does show up by some random chance, because it showed up for me, just make sure that you select cusd.zoom.us and then click sign in. Okay. Once you're in your account, this is the really important part, okay? So you hover over your little icon in the upper right corner. And if yours says basic, you have not switched your account over to the licensed version, okay? It's super important that yours shows up and it says licensed. And you're always signing in with your @clovisusd.k12.ca.us email, okay? Super important. If you're not signed in that way, chances are you're probably using a private account, and that's not what we want. We want to make sure that you get all the bells and whistles and all the controls and things that come with a licensed version, okay? An unlicensed version will only give you 40 minutes and that kind of thing. They're starting to cap those time limits again. So just make sure you're signed in and you're signed in correctly. If it does not say licensed and it still says basic and you had an account last and you used it from March to May, March to June, what you're gonna do is go back and find this email. So when we switched from the basic account that we had to the licensed account, we had to switch those accounts over. Somewhere in your email, you might have an email that looks like this. And it says Chris Edmondson only because he's the owner of the tenant, right? So it says it's him, but really it's for you to switch over. So you're gonna click switch to the new account. You're going to confirm your email address on this screen. Okay. Then you're going to get an email saying that the switch has happened. Don't try to log back in between switching it and getting this email because it's just gonna keep saying to switch, and you're going to keep doing that until they finally switch it. So just switch, wait, get this email, and then log back in. Okay. All right, so any questions about that so far? Are we good, Janet? Okay. All right. So just a quick walkthrough of all of the settings because there are many. So what I'm going to show you are basically my settings, pretty much. And then I control a lot of what I want super tight control on. I do that in the Zoom meeting itself. So let's just walk through some of these settings real quick. Okay. So in Zoom, right, once you're signed in, right, we always click this sign in button. You always want total control over your Zoom. So you always sign in. Don't just say start a meeting because you're just going to start a meeting and you're going to be in a meeting all by yourself and you're going to have to try to get people to join you and you're going to be there by yourself for a while. So don't ever click start a meeting. You always want to schedule a meeting for later and then start that and then invite people. Okay. So here we are going to go into the settings, and this is where your settings sit in your Zoom meeting. Okay. So instead of scrolling through this super long list of a lot of things that you really are not going to change, I took some screenshots of things that you may end up wanting to change. And so when you're on settings, just make sure you have meeting selected. So this is what allows your students to just click on a link and get pushed right in without having to type in a passcode or anything like that. You have to make sure that in your settings, you have that toggled on. And so what it gives you is a link that starts with cusd.zoom.us. And inside that link, you can see PWD with the equal sign. That's embedding that password and that passcode into the link, which allows one-click sign-on for your students. And so it'll save a lot of frustration if you make sure that this is toggled on. Okay. Waiting room. Don't ever disable your waiting room. Always keep it. This is what's going to help prevent Zoom bombing, people just joining your class with a link and popping right in. Always keep it enabled and just allow your students in, check the waiting room, check the names, just like we did at the very beginning, right? Just to make sure you are who you say you are. And then on the video, I always say start everybody with a video and then give them the option to turn it off. Okay, so I toggle those two on. I always mute everybody as they enter, especially if you're having a conversation and everybody's coming in and they're all chatting and everything, they have to actually unmute themselves. So I just try to keep all the background to a minimum. So I just mute everyone as they come in. And I really like the meeting reminder because what it does is, oh, hey, your meeting's gonna start in 15 minutes. And it pops up a little thing right on my screen and I can just start the meeting right there. I don't actually have to go back into Zoom. I can just start it from that little pop-up on my desktop. Chat. This is a very personal, make these decisions for what you feel comfortable with. I allow participants to send messages to each other. As a teacher, you might not want that. Private chat, I allow you to chat to one another. Auto-saving chats, I turn that off. I really don't need to auto-save a chat. And then I do like to have that little sound toggled on that if someone comes or leaves, I know. Especially if you have, 38 kids in your class and you can't see everybody on your screen, you're gonna wanna know when people are coming and going, right? It's gonna make that little chime for you.
Sherry, we have one question in the chat asking that if settings have to be changed or set every meeting, or can they stay the same from one meeting to the next?
Yes. That's a good question. These settings stay unless the owner of our tenant changes something or Zoom itself changes the settings. So sometimes there might be changes, but usually you get an email saying that, oh, we've made these changes, or there's new standard settings for everyone. So normally you're notified. So change them, and usually they're good, but every now and again something may change, but it's not very often. So you always want to have co-host turned on in case you want to give somebody the ability to share their screen. In case, like in my case, I have Janet, she's my co-host. She can monitor chat and she has a lot of controls over this meeting. Like she can mute people, unmute people, chat one-to-one, turn videos on and off and that kind of thing. So she's got control, but not as much control as the host. Polling, this allows you to ask questions of your audience and you get a little poll in return. And then always show the meeting control bar. I just have that turned on because it's easier for me to find what I'm looking for when it's when the meeting control bar is viewable. Okay. Screen sharing, I have it where only the host can. If I make a co-host, they can share. If not, if you don't have that turned on, your kids are going to be sharing screens all over the place, right? So you want to make sure that it's a host only and that only the host can interrupt somebody else screen sharing. Annotations and whiteboards. I need to make sure that I have that toggled on here real quick because we're going to do a little something with that today. Annotations. So as a group, you can, when I have it toggled on, you can actually annotate on my shared screen. And we'll try that later on in this meeting today. But you can control that in the meeting itself. You can turn that on and you can turn that off based on, if it's time in the lesson, you want somebody to annotate, you can turn it on, they can annotate and you can turn it off. So I have that toggled on. And then I also have the whiteboard toggled on. So if you want a white spot that you want to annotate on or write on, it's there for you. So make sure those two are turned on. And all of these are very personal preference, I guess you could say. I have remote control turned on, so if someone wants to ask to control my screen, they can ask, but I can deny them. Nonverbal feedback. Nonverbal feedback is in your participant panel. So if you have your participant panel open, that's where you click on the two little heads. You click there, and it gives a long list of everyone that's in the meeting. And down at the very bottom, you probably see things like raise your hand, yes and no, right? Can you guys see those? If you nod your head and let me know, can you see those? So in your participant panel, so click on the two little heads, a long list of names shows up, awesome, okay? Then at the very bottom, there's raising a hand, yes and no, go faster, go slower. You can toggle those on and off, right? So those are turned on, but they're not turned on by default. You have to turn those on, okay? Meeting reactions, that's the thumbs up and the little clapping, right? If you see that at the bottom of your screen, those are not on unless you turn them on. They're off by default. If someone is removed, if you remove somebody from your meeting, it kicks them out. It doesn't let them back in the waiting room, and it just removes them completely from your meeting. You may want to toggle that off. So if you remove somebody, it's probably for a really good reason and you don't want them joining back, and you'll catch up with them later if it's completely inappropriate. So I just have that one turned off so they can't just jump back in. Allowing participants to rename themselves, I have that on, so you could rename yourself. So as a teacher, you invite your students in, you see that some of their names aren't quite right, they rename themselves, and in the meeting itself, you can then turn that off where they can't rename themselves. So you fix your names and then you turn that off if you want that. And then at the very bottom, hiding participant profiles. So what I see right now, I have this toggled on. So I'm not seeing your little emoji or the picture that you uploaded when you turn your video off. All I see is your name. And I prefer that because I've seen some very inappropriate little pictures that people have uploaded. Like when they turn their video off, it's not a good thing to be looking at. And then you're stuck trying to get that off, asking the kid to turn their video off, or you're kicking them out or putting them in the waiting room, and it's kind of a mess. So I just turn that on where I only see your name or I see your video, and that's it. Name or video.
I have another question for you, Sherry.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Someone's asking, I noticed the whiteboard was set to save automatically. Where would I find that saved information after the meeting is over?
It downloads into your Zoom folder. I've never actually saved a whiteboard, but everything it seems that you save from Zoom ends up going into a Zoom folder. So it's in your documents. It creates a Zoom folder for you, and it just tucks those things into those folders for you, okay? Or if it doesn't go there, it's just gonna go in your downloads. Those are the two places to look for that. Okay. I have this enabled just in case they're on a device that doesn't have the Zoom extension, or they're not on a laptop. I just enable it where they can just join literally from any browser, and it's independent of anything downloaded. They do lack a little bit of interactivity, but at least they can get into your meeting and they can be there. All right, so any other questions pop up after that last one?
How are you recording this? Screencastify limits to 5 minutes.
Okay, so there is a recording feature in Zoom, and I can show you that. There's a little caveat to that too. If you're recording, so let me show you my settings up here. So in Zoom, under the recording tab, okay, there are some different options here. Because we have the licensed version, we can now record in the cloud, which allows us to split the recordings. So it used to be everything was recorded, video thumbnails were recorded, everything that was on your screen, everybody could see. But because we have the licensed version in the cloud, you can click record active speaker, gallery view, and shared screen all separately. And if you do that, then you can only have your shared screen recorded, which kind of gives you that Screencastify feel. If you end up posting those and you have participants in your meeting, if you call them out by name, or if they annotate and their name is showing, that could be construed as maybe violating their privacy. So if you do screen record, I would maybe do it. You can get in here in Zoom and video yourself all day long, right? For free. We've paid for it. So yeah, it's a lot longer than Screencastify. You can download that. But if you're screen recording while students are in your class, I would really be super careful about that. It's not videoing their faces, but any of those other things that we talked about, I would just be super careful. That's all. You can also just do an audio only file. And then this audio transcript is actually pretty slick. So if you do record it, everything that's said in this entire meeting, it's written out in a transcript with your video. So that's pretty slick. You can also export that audio transcript and upload it into YouTube. So if you do a video, you download it, you download the transcript, you can upload it into YouTube.
And someone was asking about the previous screen. Where was that in settings?
The previous screen, this one, it's in meeting advanced. So if we're in the meeting settings and we go to the advanced section right here. And if you scroll down, sorry, screen clip, there's so much in here. This right here, show a join from your browser link. And I have that turned on.
Great. And then can you post a recording of just yourself on a platform like Google Classroom or Seesaw?
Okay, there are links in here to the videos. So I'll show you what they look like here. So let me find one. So you'll go to recording. So after you record yourself, you go into recordings. It's going to show you a breakdown of what was recorded. So this is the meeting that we're currently in, right? So it's processing our recording. This is the one from yesterday. So in here, there are 4 files. Okay. Shared screen, audio only, audio transcript, chat file. But if I watch the video, let me make sure it doesn't start. So there's the transcript, right? Everything that everybody said throughout the entire meeting. So this is, you can actually share this, and there's a shareable link here. So if we come up here to share, there are some options that you can toggle on and off for sharing here. Make it public so they don't have to sign in. You can add an expiration date if you toggle this on. You can pick any of these days, or you can do a custom date. I don't know if you want kids to download it or not. That's completely up to you. You can toggle that on if you want to allow them to download. If you want to password protect it, you can toggle that on. And then you can also change or edit the password. I'll just toggle that one off. And then once you're done, you can copy the sharing information to your clipboard, and you can post that into your Google Classroom so they can click that link and just watch it straight into Zoom. So that's an option there for you.
And
Some people prefer, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, finish your thought, and then I have one more new question.
Yeah, that's fine.
What if a student has put a name that is not their own name? Can you prevent that or control the names of the children's?
Yes, you can. You can. You have that control. I'll show you that later, though. It's coming up. I promise. I promise. We'll hold that one for later.
Okay, great. And in an audio transcript, do you have to be careful because of a student's name being mentioned?
Yeah. So what you can do is download it. So you can download the video and then upload it into YouTube or put it in your Google Drive, which, by the way, be careful with Google Drive. Sometimes it takes those videos hours and hours to process. So I would just pop it into YouTube with an unlisted link and then place that into my Google Classroom. And then the transcript you can upload, you can take out and you can modify that transcript and then upload it. I haven't done a lot of that, but I know it's doable. I've heard things, so. Right, great questions.
Do you have to click regenerate after you make changes?
After you make changes on the recording? I'm sorry.
Tara, do you want to elaborate? I'll find out and let you know, Sherry.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. Awesome, great questions. So where do you put the link? So once you create your Zoom links, right? So where do you put them? So when you create your meetings, like the one that we had today, so you've scheduled out your meeting, right? I would say schedule a new meeting. You fill out all this information, right? Put in the date, give your meeting a very valid title. I would put a date and maybe period 1, you know, whatever you need to do to make it very recognizable that that was a meeting and class meeting, and the date and the time. Make sure you set the date right. I skip this part all the time. Then make sure you put about how long it's going to last. Honestly, these links don't expire for a very long time. So it's just there as a reminder, and that's what gives you that little icon that pops up that says, hey, your meeting is starting in 15 minutes. It pulls from here. If it's a recurring meeting, so what you can do is you can set one link. It will generate that same link for 5 days. And I just like it, and we'll talk more about it. It just compartmentalizes your meeting for that day, and it just keeps things super neat and super clean. So I really like the recurring meeting feature. It just creates multiple links. But honestly, it's the same link, so the kids don't know the difference, but it just makes managing the video, if you make video, or the download for attendance, it just keeps it all very clean. Okay? Always keep your passcode on. Okay? I would not enable join before host, just keep that off. Mute participants upon entry, because that's my selection. And then just save that. And once you save that, you get a link that looks just like this one. Okay. And so all you need to copy, you don't need to copy the invitation with all that garbage that goes with it. You don't need all that. You just need this link right here. So I just right click on it and I copy the link address. Okay. Then you can take that link address and basically put it anywhere, right? Anywhere where your kids go to get your information. So in Google Classroom, in Clever. So I added a couple little animated GIFs here. This is in Clever. If you have a teacher page, you click add the link. Then you just paste what you just copied into that section. You give it a title. Then you pick a little icon and it posts onto your page. So the kids, you say, go to Clever, go to my page, click on the Zoom link, and that gets them in. Because we're trying to direct all of our kids to Clever because it gives you analytics, who logged into Google Classroom, who logged onto your Zoom meet. Like, it just tells you who's doing what without you having to make a lot of parent contact, okay, about so-and-so hasn't been in Google Classroom doing any work. I don't see him in Google Drive. So you have lots of bells and whistles in Clever that you may not know about. And it's pretty slick. So just make it a one-stop shop for you. Put it in Clever. Or if you use Google Classroom, you can just post the link in Google Classroom. You can just put it on the stream, or you can add it as materials, whatever your choice is, but you can just post it there. The kids will click that link and it takes them right into the Zoom.
Is the Google Classroom link secure, Sherry?
Yes, it is secure because the students have to log in with their username and password to get into the Google Classroom. So it's behind a password. So yeah, it's secure. I mean, honestly, kids can take that link and share it with anyone. So that's why you never want a static link for too long, because that's how Zoom bombing will start to happen. But that's why you have the waiting room place too. So we're starting to put in layers of protection here. You don't use your meeting room. You create new links every time. Like, at least I would say once a week, I would create a new link for your class at least once a week. Right? So that way, if somebody did pass out an old link, they're going to go in and it's not going to work for them. That's just, like I said, that extra layer of security. That's just one more step that you don't have to worry about maybe somebody getting access to your meeting. Because kids are slick and they know a lot of workarounds for this stuff. So, or you can send out that mass email and queue, and the link to that documentation is also in the slide deck if you make a copy of it. And then I just talked about recurring meetings. Yeah, it just keeps everything organized for you. I would definitely do the recurring meetings, and I kind of already demoed that for you. So I'm just checking in real quick. Any other questions right now? We good?
back to the regenerate one. There's regenerate at the bottom of the page when I've seen it, when I have changed a few settings. I didn't know if I needed to click that or if it's saved when I changed it automatically.
Okay, I don't think I've ever seen that regenerate page. Is it maybe in the?
It's like when I'm, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
This is Tara. Okay, so like it's just on one of those pages, like if I'm doing anything on maybe settings, it just, you know, on personal meeting room or anything on the very, very bottom, it'll say regenerate. So I just didn't know if I needed to click that. So yeah, just on the, or maybe it's.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt. It's just gonna, I think, just create a new link for you.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never used that. So I've always just made new meetings because I'm super paranoid about links getting out and people just clicking and entering, and I'm like, I have no, because I'm so like uptight about that. I've never been Zoom bombed.
Yeah.
But I just make the extra link just to make sure. I've read just too many articles about, you know, kids, they just pass it around and you know, before you know it. And I am super like, I only post it right before if I can get away with it.
Yeah.
You know,
and is it good to have the same meeting ID and the same, but you know, or passcode, or I just didn't know if that's.
So I would stay away from the personal meeting room and I would just create new meetings. So I would just schedule a new meeting and just make it, maybe just repeat for a week. So what that looks like when you make a new meeting. So let's schedule one real quick.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave it here. Let's see, test. Okay. So I'm going to come down here. It's going to be every day, like 3 o'clock. It's going to be 1 hour. I'm going to make it recurring. And it gives me these options, like how many days do you want this? So I'm just going to say repeat once a day. And I'm only going to do it for 3 occurrences at 3 o'clock every day.
But it's still okay to have the same passcode and the same meeting ID? That's still okay to have the same one?
You're going to use this for a short period of time.
Yeah.
So that should be okay.
Okay.
And then you come down and you click save. Now for me, though, personally, I would make a new one for every day. But I know it's hard when you're juggling all this and you're trying to make, you know, more than one. So I would just say maybe for the week and then change it. So I'm going to click save. And this is what it looks like when you make a meeting that it has multiple occurrences. So in your meetings now, you're going to have this meeting, right? Test recurring. They're all the same, but it just splits them apart. So in your folders, they'll each have its own folder. It'll have its own meeting recordings. It'll keep things nice and separate. If not, things start to bleed and kind of get commingled, and it's just hard to figure out sometimes what belonged to where. Did that kid come on Monday? Did they come on Tuesday? Before you know it, those, it's just getting super messy. So I just keep it separate.
Thank you.
And then if you want to delete them, you just come right on here and you just delete all occurrences if you want to delete them all. Like if you make a mistake, just delete them all and start again. So
thanks.
You can also save meetings as templates. So if you're doing the same poll every time in class, or you're using the same settings every time, like no meeting room enabled or whatever, you've changed something on the settings and you have polls in place, what you can do is you can make it a meeting template. So here I made a Zoom meetings template. I want to schedule from that template. What it does is it takes all the information from that one I made before and it just lays it all out. So I only have to change a few things like the date and the time maybe, and I'll have to change the title. But if I come down here, everything that I chose for the meeting that I set today is going to stay the same. I don't have to keep changing it every time. And then I click on save. So if you're doing your links, I would say do one, set it up exactly the way you want it, save it as a template, and so it'll end up in the template gallery, and you just keep using that one over and over and over. Okay. So when I click save, it shows up in my meetings. Okay, so here's the one that I made. So when I click here and I scroll down to the bottom, there's that poll, because polls, okay, they're a pain. You know, they're not the simplest things, because you have to type in all that information and all the questions and all the, you know, the selections for your students to answer. So if you're using one every time, like check in for the day, how you feeling about yesterday's content, or what do you expect for, you know, today, or how you feeling about what we're learning. If you're using those same polls and pushing them out for interactivity, I would create them in one, make that a template, because that save as meeting template is right here. And then those polls are already set for you for your next occurrence, okay, for your next meeting. Does that make sense? It just saves you a lot of back time putting things together.
Sherry, do you have a favorite way to take attendance?
Yes, we'll get to that too. We'll get to that too. It's going to be the same way we're taking attendance for you today. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that one because I don't need it. So if I don't do it now, I'll forget. All right, so let's go ahead and pop on back and we'll talk a little bit more about a few other little bells and whistles, classroom management. So assigning hosts and co-hosts. So in your meeting, you have the ability to give maybe an aide in your classroom, that kind of thing. You can make them a co-host or you can make them a host, but there can only be one co-host. I mean, there can only be one host, but you can have multiple co-hosts. So a co-host has a lot of control, but not nearly as much as the host. So to do that from the gallery view, so if you're looking at their video, you can hover over the dots and the selections are there. If you have the participant panel open, then you click more and then you have co-host and make host abilities there. And it doesn't just do it, right? It gives you the screen too. Like, are you sure you want to do this? And you just click yes. And then it gives that person that capability. On their end, they get a little notification up on the right that says, you're now the co-host or you're now the host. So it does alert them that they have those new abilities, okay, in your meeting. How do I take attendance? Thank you for that segue, whoever asked that question. Excellent question. Let's show you how to take attendance. So in reports, in Zoom, you're going to click on usage, and it always just filters to the last day. Okay. So let's look at, okay, let's just look at the one we did yesterday. Here's the participants from yesterday. Okay. If I go ahead, I can look this over and I go, that looks good. What you want to check is export meeting data. So you get all of this at the top. So you know the day, the time, the meeting link information, how many minutes it was, and how many participants you had. And then I also selected this one, show unique users, because what might happen is someone may get bumped off and then they have to rejoin. Like you can tell, look, the duration in minutes, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, these people joined again. And I don't want to have to go through and add up and find, okay, they were in for 1 minute, and then they were in for 10 minutes, and then they were in for 15 minutes. If I click show unique users, it collapses all that, and it adds up the time for each user. Here's a little caveat to this though. If they join from a different device, it will not include them as the same user. So if they get bumped off their laptop and they can't get back on, and then they use, let's say, mom's phone or an iPad, it's not going to group them together. So you might have to find that student again and add up those, but hopefully they're one-offs, and this takes care of the bulk of your attendance for the day. Okay.
I have another question related to what we were talking about before. Since elementary students will have 3 instructional blocks, can we make one Zoom meeting for the whole day? Can we stop the meeting at lunch and log back into the same meeting, or should we start a new meeting?
No, that one, I would just put everybody in the waiting room and just leave it like that if you want. If the kids are just going to stay on, you can put them all in the waiting room, or you can end the meeting and then restart the meeting. So I have actually had meetings in here that are a week old that I've restarted. So as long as the host is in and you have that waiting room enabled, you can just keep using that one. Okay. But I do like to change things up because I don't trust people because they'll share the link and stuff. So yeah. All right, any questions about that? All right. So that should really help you as far as attendance is concerned, right? At least take one more brick out of your wheelbarrow there. Okay. And so there's a little how-to in here. I just want to show you where it was because this is a condensed version of that. And of course, waiting rooms, right? We want to keep these on. It's just good security. It helps prevent Zoom bombing. So what you can do is put kids into the waiting room while you're working with a small group, and then open them back up, let them back in and say, hey, it's your turn, come back. And then put the group that you're working with in the waiting room. So it's kind of a way to shuffle your students, right? Put some out, bring some in, because you don't want to go into a breakout room and leave kids in your Zoom because then they're unsupervised. So you want to make sure you have supervision in Zoom so you can put them in the waiting room and then work with your small group. Okay. You can also send messages, like text messages, into the waiting room. So if they're out there, you can say, okay, I'll be with you in 5 minutes. If they can read. If they can't read, you just have to tell the little ones, okay, I'm going to put you in the waiting room and I'll come back in 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Have mommy set the timer or something so they know to come back to their Zoom meeting. Okay. And you are also able to customize. I'm sure maybe some of you, a few of you, you were in my waiting room for a few minutes. I have a little customized little Bitmoji in there. So if you click customize waiting room, anything that has that little pencil next to it, you can change it, right? Little pencil. And you have this cute little waiting room. But this waiting room extends across every single meeting that you have. So just make sure that the meeting, I don't know, it's maybe if you have adults meeting or something, you want to change it for that time, but you can change it off and on to whatever you want. But it's there and it's very static until you change it. Okay. So when participants are in the waiting room, you can text them right through the chat. So you would choose in chat, instead of everyone, you would say everyone in the waiting room. And you could type a message to them. It shows up, if you're on a PC, it shows up on the side. If you're on a device, it gives you a little like speech bubble with a 1 or something to let you know that there's a message in there that you need to click it and read it. But it does alert them that they do have a message. Okay. And then I like to have that sound chime when people are coming and going. And so when they're in the waiting room, it will alert you. So it'll show you right here, like it'll pop up at the bottom of your screen that someone's there and you can just admit them there. Or if you have the participant panel open at the very top, so it doesn't get hidden at the very top, you can just admit them in the participant panel. Okay.
Sherry, can you just start over from the very beginning about showing where to go to create your waiting room and put people in it? Just repeat that section.
Right here?
Yeah.
So in your settings, so in your settings in the waiting room, so it is actually one of the top settings, I believe, here in the settings portion. So right here, it's like the first thing that you see is your waiting room settings. It's right here at the top. So there's some edit options here, and then you can customize the waiting room. Okay. I have it set, everybody goes into the waiting room. The edit options are, who are you going to put in the waiting room? Users not in your account. Well, that would pretty much be everybody. I mean, very few of us are actually in, the account like they're supposed to be, and users who are not in your account and not part of allowed domains. I just choose everyone, and then I just let everybody in. You can turn the waiting room off and then turn it back on. I don't really recommend that with students, but I would just keep that waiting room on.
Can you select one student and put them back in a waiting room?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Let's see. Let me show you where that is here. So in the participant panel, I think I get to it later on down at the bottom, or maybe I didn't screenshot that. So what you would do, so in the participant panel, you would hover over more, and then it gives you the place in waiting room option. It looks a lot like the co-host one. I'll show you, let's see. Right here. So put in waiting room. I think it's down, I think I'm hiding it down in waiting room. And over here, it's put in waiting room. Okay. So that's where you would go for those. Okay. Great questions. So yeah, you can chat with them. You can admit them or remove them. This is where you can also just message them in the waiting room. And if you have multiple participants, there would also be an admit all here. Okay, an admit all option. So you just let them in bulk. Renaming students, yes, you have the power. Okay. And it's a best practice for attendance, right? If someone comes in, they forget that they're using mom's iPad, right? The kid's not mom's iPad. So you can rename them and then you can lock it too. So, or you can lock it, period, and then you can pop in and rename the students if you need to. Just depending on age and how trusting you are that they will actually put their right name in there. But this is how you do it. So from the participant panel, it's more and then rename, and there's the put in waiting room. Or from the gallery view, it's here, and you can rename them there. Okay? Just like how you renamed yourself, it prompts you just that same way. Okay? Then what you can do is you can toggle this off. So in the participant panel, you click on the little array at the bottom, and you can turn off them renaming themselves. So once everybody looks good, turn it off. So they don't keep renaming, because they will totally rename themselves. So you can turn that off. Okay. All right, any questions so far about the whole renaming section? Nope. All right, we're plugging away. Good. Muting and unmuting participants. So from the gallery and the participant panel, you can do it from both places. On the gallery, it just shows up. Like you just hover over their image, and it'll say mute or ask to unmute. And then from the participant panel, you can just click on mute. What you can do is you can toggle off allowing kids to unmute themselves. So if you have that one student that's constantly unmuting themselves and yelling over everyone, you can just mute them and then turn that off where they can't unmute themselves. But then you can request that they unmute themselves when it's time for them to talk. You can also toggle this on and off too. So you can do your teaching and then unmute and have the discussion, and then mute everybody and then disable it and then move on. So you have quite a bit of control there. I wish I had that in real life. I can just mute everyone until I'm ready for them to talk, and then I can unmute them. That would be awesome. Okay, so let's move on to screen sharing real quick. You have tons of options when it comes to screen sharing. So you're gonna click that big green, right? It screams out to you, right? Click me, I'm green. So that big green button, and then you have lots of options on what to choose. It's kind of a personal workflow on your end, like what do you want to share? I usually just choose my entire screen and I just turn off like everything else. I turn off my email, I get rid of stuff, I get rid of notifications and things. So I usually end up picking screen one. I do have a second screen attached and it recognizes that. I could have my everything on my second screen viewable. You can in your classroom, we'll talk more about plugging into your Extron system or your projector, and that's your second screen, and it recognizes that as your second screen. This is the whiteboard that I turned on. I have never done anything with my iPhone or my iPad before. I hear from other people that it's a little slow and it doesn't really refresh at a fairly decent rate, so I haven't touched that really. And these were just things that I had open in the background, individual programs, because you can just share a program and that's all it's going to share and it won't share anything else. So when you're presenting and you're going from thing to thing, right? From maybe one website to an application on your desktop, you have to be very cognizant if you choose just that one thing that you can switch between them. So that's why I just picked the screen. So everything I do here just shows to you. If you are sharing video, you have to make sure these two things at the bottom are toggled on for the video to show. And be careful with the optimized screen sharing for video clip, because what will happen, it's random, it happens sometimes, that your controls will be big black squares to people, right? Your participant panel will be a big black rectangle. Your controls at the bottom will be a long black rectangle at the bottom. So just make sure you move those out of the way or just minimize them while the video is showing. If you're only using one screen, it's super helpful to those that are watching. So those are your options there. And then you click on share, and then it lets you know that you are screen sharing. It gives you a little thing that says, you are screen sharing, and it's a little bar that shows up. Okay. Then there's the advanced tab where some of you might have a document camera. And I've done this where I've just plugged in a document camera and it has magically worked. The technology fairies were with me that day and they sprinkled fairy dust on me and it magically worked when I plugged it in. If you don't have a a document camera with that USB cord, look around and see if you can find one and give this a try. Just plug it in and try this option with the second camera. If it doesn't work, at the very end, I have some videos in there that you might want to try out. There are so many different document cameras out there. It's like the Wild West. We can't make how-to videos for all the different document cameras that are out there. And you may have to just play around with it a little bit to see what works for you. Check with other teachers at your school site. Maybe they've used that same document camera and plugged it in. What did they do to get it to work? Okay.
Sherry, can you just review one more time how to show a video, and then someone's asking, how do you make sure the sound is coming through?
Yeah, so at the very bottom, so you click on share screen. At the very bottom, before you share your screen, toggle on these bottom two options. Can you see them? I'm sorry, my little thing is like, it's blocking it. But down at the very bottom, you toggle those two little things on, and then you share. Then you can go to your video. Like videos, at the very beginning, they're a little glitchy. They're not exactly smooth, but as it buffers, it seems to get better as the video goes on. So give it a few seconds to kind of get loaded, I guess you could say, before it really starts to play well. But yeah, that's how you turn on the sound so everybody can hear it and the video looks decent. That was honestly most problems that we had were teachers emailing saying, my kids can't hear my video. Here's another thing too. We also got lots of people asking about streaming Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime. Don't count on those working because a lot of them have blocks in place where you can't stream through Zoom their content. So what you'll get is a big black screen. So we've had to ask people to go onto YouTube and search to see if you can find that same content in a different format in maybe YouTube or some other place to work. Maybe their website like National Geographic, maybe they have some of those videos that you wanted to show in Netflix and Amazon Prime, maybe they'll have them on their site. And those seem to work a lot better. And they actually do come through a Zoom, like the digital platform. Okay. So any questions about that so far?
Someone's asking, I have Sphere active. Do I get rid of it?
Oh, Sphere for your document camera? No, keep it, keep it. That does sometimes have drivers that makes your document camera work better. I would leave it. I would leave it on. Okay. So what you can do when you're screen sharing, you can pause it. So like on your projectors, remember that little freeze button on the projector, right? And it would just stop. And no matter what you did on your computer, it would keep that screen frozen from what you last shared. Well, this does the same thing. So I'm presenting, if I click pause share, it freezes on that last thing that I was sharing, and I can go check my email, or I can do attendance, or I can email a parent back, or whatever I'm doing in the background won't show. But you have to remember though, you need to pause your screen. So that option is there. And then you get one that says unpause. Okay. And here's a little trick about using your projector as a second screen. So if you do Windows P, and I'm sorry, I don't know what it is on a Mac. I'm not a Mac person. I'm guessing it's Control P, but I'm not sure. So Windows P, and you click extend. If you have your your projector plugged in, or if you're plugged into the Extron system, or a second screen, like I have a second screen plugged in, then it makes that second screen extended. So you click extended, all I have to do is drag it. So watch, it looks like this. I grab it, I can tear it off, and as it moves off my screen, it's going onto my second screen, okay? So now what I was showing you here, I now see on my second screen. And if I want it back, I can just pull it back and we're good. So it's just grabbing it, dragging it, and pushing it onto that next screen. Okay. So what's great is if you are presenting here, like I have with you, so I have what I'm presenting here, I have dragged my my participant panel. I have dragged the gallery view so I can see your videos and I can see your names over here, and I can see what I'm presenting. These are the nonverbal feedback icons we talked about earlier. You have to toggle these on in settings, and so you can ask students to raise their hand if they have a question, and these stick, right? If they have their hand up, it just stays up unless you want to clear it. You can ask them questions, yes or no, and they can answer. So it's makes it a little more interactive. They can do a thumbs up, thumbs down, and that kind of thing, or they can clap. But these are just little interactive icons that you can use, just a quick question, yes or no, and it's pretty cool. Then we come down to how do you get rid of those? Those kids, they put them all up, and instead of asking them to go through and toggle all of them off, you have the clear all feedback option at the bottom of the participant panel. Sorry, participant panel. You can come down to the bottom, clear all feedback. It takes all those icons away. Or you can do it one at a time and lower their hand or toggle them off. Okay. Those reaction icons, right? They disappear after about 10 seconds. So if you guys want to press one right now, you go right ahead. It's under the little happy face with the plus. You can either clap because you're learning so much, or you're like, yeah, I love them. They're awesome. And they just fade away after about 10 seconds. So they don't stay around forever. Of course, you have kids that will like reaction bomb you. They'll just keep clicking that thing 85 times while you're talking. It's all good. It's keeping them busy. So you have to toggle those on in your settings, and they disappear after 10 seconds. Okay. All right, any questions so far? Are we good? I'm sorry, it's a lot of talking. If I was doing this with kids, I'd have little movement things in here. Instead of moderator check-ins, it'd be like, okay, 10 jumping jacks, or 5 wall push-ups, or 3 burpees, whatever. Play some music and dance for a minute just to get their wiggles out. Something fun, in between to break up the monotony of sitting in front of the camera.
Sherry, I do have a new question. When I would share YouTube videos during Zoom sessions, it would not allow me to save the Zoom session to my YouTube page due to copyright laws. Is there a way to find out ahead of time which will and will not allow saving during a Zoom meeting?
Okay, so what you can do is you can video that, and then what you do is you crop out that portion. So you can go into, I don't know, give me a thumbs up if you remember Windows Movie Maker. Click the reaction and give me a thumbs up if you remember Windows Movie Maker, right? A lot of us have used it in the past. We still have it available for you. So if you come down and you click on the little magnifying glass and you type in Software Center. Okay. And then you scroll down and you find the Windows, I think Media Pack, or I'll show it to you real quick. You come down and you find the little Windows Live Essentials right here. This still has Windows Movie Maker in it. And so you can download your Zoom video and put it into Windows Movie Maker and crop out that part, so then you can't upload it to YouTube. You're not doing copyright infringement. There's also, if you ended up getting the Windows update, there is also Create a Video in the Photos app. Sorry, this is going to take forever. So if you click right here where it says new video project. Okay, so you can click there. You can pull that video in and you can start trimming and cropping things. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit to play around with this, but it kind of mirrors Windows Movie Maker. There's some different little things in here. I don't know. I still just use the Windows Movie Maker. It's super easy. Okay. Right, so any questions about that? That's a great question. I don't play a lot of YouTube videos in my sessions that I record, so I did not know that you'd get blocked. But yeah, they have a really strong algorithm when it comes to music, and they will nail you for it, absolutely. If you need music, though, they do have free music. If you're doing something that you want to upload to YouTube that has music on it, they do have free music, so it's in there. So sharing a whiteboard, remember in screen, you share your screen, you choose whiteboard, and it gives you a white screen with this toolbar at the top. And they give you some different options here. So this is just mousing over things. Drawing, it gives you these tools right here. This is what you want to use to like freehand write things. This right here is like a little highlighter tool. It's a very transparent color, like for highlighting, drawing some shapes. You can stamp some things on there. Spotlighting, if I click spotlight, it puts a little red dot at the end of my cursor so you can see where my cursor is. This little arrow, if I stamp it, I'm just drawing attention to different things on my screen for people to look at. This changes the width and the color of text and the drawing app here. Undo redo self-explanatory clearing, you have these options to clear things. So if you're annotating and then you ask people to join you, you can clear yours, you can clear theirs, or you can take away all of it. Okay.
Sherry, can you go back to where you got into that?
Yes, you go to share screen and you choose whiteboard as a presenter, and then you click on share. It gives you a white background with that toolbar at the top.
And then I have another question. You mentioned see gallery view on another device. How do we do that? How do I see gallery view on one device and share my screen for participants to see? Do I log into the Zoom link from another device, or do I split?
You can do that. Yeah, that is another option. So like I've done here, look at the gallery view if I want. Like I don't even have to, I can just say gallery view and I can pull this all the way open to see everyone like that. And I can watch you here and present if I don't have a second screen or a projector. Or you can do that Control P and then pick extend. Control P and choose extend, and it will give me that second screen or through my projector. And so yes, students can annotate too. So if you're teaching a lesson and you want them to join in and do something on your screen, especially small group, you can give them that power to annotate on what you are sharing. Now it's on the whiteboard or just on the screen that you are sharing. So the whiteboard is just like a whiteboard. I'm sharing with you, so we're going to annotate together. Okay. So to turn that on and off, you come down to your screen sharing when you have this toolbar showing. You click on more, and you can enable and disable annotation here. And then you can also show the names of who's doing what on your screen. It doesn't stay very long, but if they're doing a lot of drawing, you're going to find out who it is because their name's going to be attached. So right now, we're going to give this a try. Right? We did it yesterday with 99 people. So let's see if we can do it today with 72. All right, so we're going to annotate. So I want to know, what grade level do you teach, or are you an administrator? So I'm going to turn on, right now, I'm going to turn on your ability to annotate, but I want you to, when you get there, let me show you what I want you to do here. I want you to pick the stamp, because the toolbar is going to show up for you. I want you to pick the stamp and a heart or a star, and I want you to put the heart or the star in the right box for me. Let's go back to that screen. So I'm just sharing the screen with you. I'm now going to toggle on the annotation tool. So right now, you can, up at the top, go up and pick annotation. Right. Awesome. You can start stamping all over my screen. Stamp here. Be polite, don't stamp over somebody else's stamp. We need to be kind to each other. Awesome. Wow, lots of elementary teachers in here today. I was way high school heavy yesterday, so we have a lot more elementary teachers in here today. Awesome. Great, looks like everybody's found that. Awesome. Okay, so now I'm done with you annotating, so I can come in here now and I can disable participant annotation.
I think a couple of people couldn't find the toolbar. Can you show one more time?
So this is what, I'm going to leave all the little hearts here for a second. So when you go back, oh, I got to close that real quick. Okay, so when you go back to the previous slides, so as a student, when I turn on annotation, you come up here to view options and you click on that little caret. Go up the caret, click on the caret, and then you choose annotate, and then that bar shows up for you. That little toolbar shows up for you. Okay. So I'll turn it back on so everybody gets a chance. So I'm going to toggle annotation back on. I'm also going to show your names too. I forgot to turn that on for you guys. Okay, so now go ahead and click on the, go up to that bar, click on the caret, and then choose annotate. And you can put a little stamp on there for me. There you go. Awesome. with smaller kids, with a smaller group or whatever, those little names stick around a little bit longer, but awesome. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off now. And I'm going to clear all of our annotations. I'm sorry, I'm going to erase all your hard work. And we're going to move on to the next one. You guys were great. So chat options. So I leave all the chat options on. And then as a teacher, before you let all the kids into the waiting room, you can choose how you want them to chat to one another, or if you want them to chat to one another, or if it's just to you. So what a lot of teachers do is they start Zooms with literally no ability on their end at all. And you open up like one thing a day. So we talk about, okay, today we're going to practice our reactions, right? Okay, everybody thumbs up, clap, right? The next day, we open up the participant panel icons where they can raise their hand or answer yes and no. And then the next day, maybe I let them chat to me. And the next day, maybe I let them chat to each other. You know, so you just have to set those very strict parameters in place for each tool. Because if you don't, they will go berserk in here. They'll get in here and they're going to start clicking everything and talking to one another, and it's going to be the Wild West. So if you lock it down from the get-go and just release it one thing at a time, it makes your experience and actually their experience a lot better. Okay, so polling the participants. So like I said before, you always want to make your polls earlier, like before you even open them up. Try to have them done. They're just time consuming and they take a long time to make kids wait while you put a poll together. But you can pre-make your polls in your meetings. So once you create your meeting, you come into meetings, you click on the topic, and then you scroll down and you're going to say add. Okay? When you click on add, it opens up, looks like a Google form. Basically, you only have multiple choice or single choice or multiple choice. That's all you have. There's no, extended responses at all in here. So set them up beforehand and then just have them ready to go. So I create them here, and then in my meeting, I'm just ready to go. So right now we're going to give you a poll, let you give that a try. So in my settings, I'm going to, so here's the little how-tos. Set it up before. Once you give a poll, you can't edit it. So once you've pushed it out and they've answered, the editing access to that poll is gone. You can't copy polls from one session to another unless you make that template. So you create your meeting, you set your polls, and then you make it a template. It'll keep using that same poll too, over and over and over. And they only allow for single or multiple choice. Okay, so this is just that short, sweet version of how to make a poll. You type in the poll questions. After you're done, if you want to go back in and edit your poll, you can, because they'll give you edit and delete options once you've created it. And now I'm going to launch the poll for you. So basically on my settings, because I've turned that on in my settings, I get that little icon that says polls. I can click that and I can launch a poll. If you have more than one poll, it's going to be here under the caret. Okay, it's going to give me which poll do you want to push out right now. And you have to select there. And then you can end it when you're done. And then you have the option to share the results with everyone, or you can relaunch it. So what some teachers do, they start the session asking, then at the end they can relaunch it, like a checking for understanding. They can, one at the beginning and one at the end. So let's take a poll. So I'm going to push out our poll for today. Just a really quick short one. So right now you should see that poll show up on your screen. How are you feeling about your Zoom learning today? So I can see that 63 out of 71 of you have finished. And so I can either close it myself when everybody's answered, or it's basically going to close itself in about 54 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end the polling. I'm going to share the results with you. And so that's what it looks like on my end. And you can see the results of, it's a lot to juggle, right? A lot of moving parts, but with some practice, that's how we learned. I learned on the fly, just poking around in here and just apologizing a lot for, hey, I'm new at this. But you know, over time, you kind of get a feel for your workflow and your kids, and you get your, just like your classroom, right? You get down to business. They know exactly what to expect after the first few meetings with you. So you're good to go. So from here, I can relaunch it if I want to, or I can just close it because we're done. So thanks for playing along. All right, so any questions so far?
Sherry, someone's asking if you have an easy cheat sheet for reference just during a Zoom with students.
The cheat sheet, this is kind of it. So I have all those little how-tos in here. So this whole slide deck is basically your big giant cheat sheet, along with, we're making those little short tutorial videos for you. They will all be in that site that we talked about, and I'll show it to you here at the end too. We'll post them as soon as we're done. These sessions were put together for you guys in about a week. So we're trying to get those videos rendered and posted as soon as we can. And we have people working in the back making those tutorials for you. And this is available right now for you too. So, okay. All right, breakout rooms. Okay, here's my public service announcement about breakout rooms. When the kids are in there, they are unsupervised unless you are in those meetings with them. You need to check with your administration before you put kids into breakout rooms. The only way you can be in every single breakout room is to have an additional computer for each breakout room. So let's say I have my kids and I want to break them into 5 groups, okay, in a breakout room. I have 1 computer. I'm going to need 4 more computers. I'm going to sign in as a participant on the other 4 computers. Then I can be in all the rooms at the same time. And on all those machines, I'm going to mute the microphone so I can hear them, I can see them, and I can be in the room with them. So at a glance, I can see every single group and I can hear every single group. It's going to be busy, but at least you are supervising them in all those breakout rooms. Yes, it does require more devices. I'm hoping maybe you don't have to pass out all those devices that are at your school site. Maybe you will have some where you can use those for your breakout rooms. So if you want to create breakout rooms, you have to have that option turned on. And then you have some options. So you click on breakout rooms right here on your toolbar. It pops up with this screen. Automatically, just randomly assigns the kids to breakout rooms, or manually, you can choose who goes into which room together. After you open up that next screen, you have these options that you can set for that breakout room experience. So you don't have to remember to pull everybody back. You can break them into minutes and just say, I only want them in there for X number of minutes, and then they're going to be automatically pulled back to the main room where we are right now. Okay? It'll give them a little countdown timer if you want to give them that option, and they can come out of that breakout room at any time into the main room if they need to talk to you. There's also in those rooms, there's a little help icon, and you'll see it because I'm going to break you out into rooms here in a minute, where you can see, you can ask me for help. It gives me a message, I pop in and I help you. So there's that option too. Okay. So let's say you choose manually. This is what it looks like. You have breakout rooms here. You click assign, and a laundry list of your students or whoever's in your breakout room, whoever's in your meeting shows up, and you just click, who do you want in that room? Click, 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 that's room 1. Then I click assign by breakout room 2, and I go click, 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 these kids are in room 2. Then I can say add another room. You can add a lot of rooms. You can also rename them. there's, if you hover here, there's a rename option and you can rename those breakout rooms. Once students are assigned, this shows up next to them if you hover. If you want to move a student or exchange them with somebody else, like, oh, those two probably shouldn't be in the same room together, you can switch them out, and then you are set to go for your breakout room. Once you have everything the way you want it, then you choose open all rooms, and the participants get this message where they have to click to join. If you stay in the main room, you can see who's joined and who hasn't. So you can prompt them to, hey, you need to join your room. I see that you're still in the main room and you shouldn't be here. You need to go ahead and move into that room. It also is kind of a dead giveaway of who's walked away from their screen and did not choose to go to their breakout room. So you're gonna, where are you? You're not in front of your screen because you didn't do like you're supposed to. So it's kind of a dead giveaway of who's there and who's not. Once you're in the breakout rooms, okay, once they're in there, then you get that join button there, right? So you click on the breakout room, you can join. And once you click on join, then it pulls you into that room. This is the message that you get if someone asks for your help from the breakout room. Okay. Okay, you guys ready? I'm just going to break you out into some random groups here real quick. Give you that breakout room experience. Right? You don't ride a bike in one day. So this just lets you know what's possible, and then just find your herd, your nerd herd, and just get together and Zoom with each other and take turns passing off hosting ability to others and experience it from the participant side again, experience it from the host side, because you can do that in one Zoom meeting. You can just pass around the hosting capability and just play. Just get in there and try to break things. Do what you think your students might do those first few days that they're with you in class to see, what would I do to kind of tamp that down, or what would I change, and what would I start with, and that kind of thing. This is that document camera information that I told you. If it just doesn't work when you plug it in and you go to document camera, chances are you may need to download some software or find that USB cord or whatever you need to do to make it work. So just give this a look over. I wish I could offer you assistance with your document camera and know exactly how to make that document camera that you have work, but unfortunately it's going to be a hit and miss thing for you guys. So just try your best to get that puppy to work. And then all the tutorials that we're making for you, this slide deck, the recordings that we're making, they're going to be posted on the COSD Online Learning Resources page. This is the tiny URL for that. If you want to jot that down. So COSD is capitalized, the O in online is capitalized, the L in learning, and the R in resources is capitalized. And it's bit.ly.